Hi there. I'm Jim Zirin. Welcome back for more conversations. We have a great show for you. The outstanding political journalist Patrick Healy is with us. Patrick was recently appointed assistant managing editor at the New York Times, overseeing standards and trust. Before that, he was deputy editor on the opinion page and served as editor in the politics and culture sections. He hails from Boston, joining the Times as a reporter in 2005. A prize-winning journalist, he won the Fred M. Hechinger Award for distinguished education reporting in the Boston Globe about grade inflation at Harvard, Harvard's quiet secret. No armchair reporter he. While at the Globe, Patrick did stints in Afghanistan, Israel, and Iraq, and was a finalist for a Pulitzer Prize. Wow. Patrick knows the hills and valleys of the contemporary political landscape. He has covered Bernie Sanders, John Kerry, and of course Zoran Mamdani, as well as the 2018 midterm and 2020 presidential elections. He will tell us how the New York Times meets its critics with new and different standards in journalism. We're pleased to welcome Patrick Healy to the program.
Jim, it's great to be with you.
Well, great to be with you, and I may be one of the few people extant who ever met Fred M. Hechinger.
I love that. I love that show.
Long-time education editor of the Times.
Terrific editor.
Right. So standards and trust, that's your remit.
That's the remit, Jim. I mean, we publish hundreds of pieces a day of journalism at the Times, really trying to help people understand their world, the country, their lives better. But what we don't do so well, and what we want to do better, is to help people understand how we do things at the Times, to really kind of open up our process and show people why we cover certain issues, how we cover certain issues, to showcase the expertise and the independence of our journalists. This summer, the executive editor, Joe Kahn, created my job, which hadn't existed before, and put it on his leadership team and on the masthead. And the core idea of my job is to help explain our journalism, both to readers who love our work now, and then people who, for whatever reason, aren't engaging with the Times. It's to build just more trust and credibility with kind of the widest possible audience we can get.
Well, what gave rise to this, Patrick? Was it Donald Trump flinging at the New York Times his accusation of fake news, or was it something else?
It wasn't that. It was really a desire to go behind the journalism in new ways. We have a lot of experience at defending our work, but we sort of asked ourselves, what can we do more proactively to show our work to people? You've probably seen, Jim, we have more videos with reporters talking about how they do their work. The podcast, The Daily, with Michael Barbaro and his colleagues. A lot of that is reporters kind of unpacking how they got the story. And I think we want to sort of elevate that and bring it to another level. I think it helps readers, viewers, listeners understand our work better when they see the human beings behind it, and kind of understand, I think, sort of these core issues of fairness and thoroughness and care that go into the work. And a big part of that is standards, it's trust.
So that's an expansion of your online platform from what it was before. And then what does your day look like? Are you reading the Times every day and then also covering what goes out online?
Yeah, so our standards team has actually tripled in size. We now have about 10 full-time editors, and we are reviewing many stories before publication, looking at language, at tone, at clarity, logic, but we're also looking, Jim, at fairness. Is this story fair? Do all kinds of Americans from all walks of life, would they see their perspectives, their country represented in these stories? Just the other day, I was working on a story about a new poll that we have about Donald Trump's job approval. And some of the language in the very early draft of that piece talked about how his unpopularity was unchanged. And I thought we could do better. I thought there was sort of a fairer way to talk about the data, also, frankly, fair way to talk about Trump in that, because it was so interesting, Jim. After the last several months, you might think that Trump's approval rating, really would have weakened further, but that isn't the case. It's held on. So I think from a standards point of view, we try to look at stories and ask, are we getting it right? Are all sides represented? I spent a lot of my career, Jim, as a political reporter, as you mentioned, and a real point of pride for me was when readers and family members would say, I can't tell reading your story if you're a Democrat or a Republican, if you're a liberal or a conservative. I don't see a bias or agenda in what you're doing. And I think that holds true of so many of my colleagues. It's not our role to bring our own viewpoints into the stories.
Well, there's going to be criticism of the Times no matter what it does.
Yep.
You, of course, have to accept that. Is the criticism coming from the left or from the right or from the center or from everybody?
It's coming from everybody, Jim. It's definitely true that there is more mistrust in the public, in the media broadly. That's not to be unexpected when you have a president who's attacking the press and the Times daily. But our belief is that people want the full story, that if we hold true and hold fast to our independence and our determination to give people the whole story, that they'll find their way to us. So many Americans I've met on the left, on the right, in the center, they don't want half-truths. They don't want agenda journalism. They want reporting. They want facts. They want information that will help their lives be better. I do think in this era, with polarization being what it is in the country, you are seeing criticism from left, right, center. So much of it, Jim, is a desire for the Times in some ways to referee a situation, to take their side over another side. But that's not what independent journalists do. Independent journalists come to a story with an open mind and an open notebook. They don't come with a set of biases or again, a desire to just weigh in for one side.
Well, let's take one of the two big stories. Your two big stories these days are Trump and Israel, Gaza. And of course, you're covering the local news, and we'll get to that. But with Trump, you had a team during Trump 1.0 covering everything Trump did. Mm-hmm. Do you have a similar team in Trump 2.0? We
have a really large team. We have the largest number of reporters covering the White House that we've ever had. It's up to about 10 or so, and they're really thorough. But one thing that's interesting, Jim, that's different from when I started in politics, we have reporters covering the White House who aren't pure political reporters. They're coming with real specific expertise on the economy, on foreign policy, on national security, on race in America, on free speech, on the law. So bringing that kind of expertise to bear.
Well, you have a whole section called the 47th President. Mm-hmm. And there, almost every day, you're covering all of Trump's antics. Maybe there are a lot of things like the peace deal with Israel, if it eventuates, that are apart from that. But do you find that, really interesting stories about what Trump has accomplished or failed to accomplish or lost in the sea of all the various scandals, the various questions, and the various extraordinary statements that he's making every day?
Absolutely, Jim. And this is of such interest to our audience, to our readers and viewers and listeners. They know that the stakes for the country, for the world of this presidency are very high, and we are coming at that with a lot of resources to bear in Washington, but also around the country and overseas, how the Trump administration's policies on immigration and crime and the border are affecting different cities around the country, how the administration's climate and environmental policies are impacting federal lands, and again, kind of cities and towns, kind of coming at it from a really kind of holistic way. But I think what's important, Jim, coming from my end on the standards and fairness, is to be asking, are we getting the mix right of stories? Are we getting the tone and the balance right? It's been argued, and I think with a lot of evidence, that President Trump has been the most effective and consequential president in decades in terms of advancing his agenda, in terms of getting done what he has wanted to do. So are we capturing that element to the story? And that's something that we talked about around the Iran strike and the passage of the big domestic bill that he was pushing. Our readers may
The big
disagree.
beautiful bill.
The big beautiful bill, Jim. Some of our readers may disagree, just vociferously with President Trump's agenda. But I think what's important for us is to understand why he is being effective in advancing kind of his cause, what goes into it, who are the people behind the scenes who are driving that agenda. We had a great piece the other day about Russ Vought, the director of the OMB. That piece really took readers behind the scenes to understand how this one figure was driving so much change in America. And I think that's a kind of explanatory but also accountability piece that the Times still does, frankly, better than anyone else.
So is that something that came from the journalists, say Russell Vought, and particularly his background as a Christian nationalist and how that might have informed his policy preferences, or did it come from the Bureau of Standards and Trust?
No, it comes from the journalist, Jim. We're reviewing pieces in kind of draft form and offering feedback, but the different departments at the Times, the news departments, really drive the coverage, and it comes from the reporters. I mean, I think about Charlie Kirk's assassination, and we had my colleague Robert Draper in the Washington Bureau. Robert was, texting with Charlie Kirk earlier. He wrote a magazine story that was really the definitive piece on Charlie Kirk. He spoke to Turning Point USA and to Erica Kirk shortly after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. He really understands that world, and I think gains the trust of people through the thoroughness and care of his reporting. So some of our Charlie Kirk coverage really came from Robert Draper having this expertise and saying, these are some of the follow-ups and storylines that we should really be pursuing. And a lot of that, again, is not because he's just sort of sitting in an armchair opining about the world, but he's doing the real reporting in the field and gaining the trust of people who are helping him understand, that part of conservative America.
Well, there are a lot of Trump issues in the mix. I mean, just to think of some of them, there's Jeffrey Epstein, there's the tariff emergency that he declared and what is going to be the fate of that in the Supreme Court. There's, of course, the draconian ICE crackdowns on illegal immigrants or allegedly illegal immigrants. And you can think of a number of others. Do you prioritize those at all in reporting on the 47th president?
Yeah, I mean, we have 2,000 journalists now at the Times, Jim. It's an enormous group of really expert reporters. And we're thinking about what are the major storylines that are impacting America, but that are also really relevant to our readers. So a lot of them are ones that you mentioned, certainly the economy and the way that that's affecting different parts of the country, immigration and how that is playing out in cities and town across the country. Healthcare, absolutely. What's happened with Medicaid and sort of how that may spill over. Jim, the Times' readership is growing fastest right now in the South and in the Midwest. We are read in blue counties and red counties. We have more readers and subscribers today in California than we do in New York. Right behind them is Texas and Florida, where we have sort of an enormous readership. So I think we have people, again, from all different backgrounds, political vantage points, affiliations, who want to really understand the country, I think, through facts and reporting and getting answers to hard questions.
What does it feel like to be a journalist today when you see the New York Times being sued for billions of dollars, the case is dismissed, maybe he'll refile it, maybe he won't.
Yeah.
This is Trump's suit against the Times. You have the settlements done by CBS and ABC. You have the Jimmy Kimmel story. Has there been a chilling effect on journalists as a result of all this?
I don't think there's been a chilling effect. I think we know the pressure, but we've been under pressure for years. I mean, President Biden, I can tell you, Jim, was not happy with the hard questions that our journalists were asking him any more than President Trump was. So the pressure is not new.
No president is happy with criticism or tough questions.
No president is happy. But I think that what you find with President Trump is that publicly, he fulminates against the Times and he files the libel suit. But privately, he has been thrilled with the coverage that we've done of fentanyl in Mexico. He's called the Times a crown jewel of the media. So he says and does a lot of different things, as we know, Jim.
We all know that.
It's a little unpredictable every day. But no, I don't think there's a chilling effect. I think when President Trump filed his lawsuit, our publisher A.G. Sulzberger and our executive editor Joe Kahn were very clear with the newsroom to keep doing the work that we're doing. The president is wrong on the facts, on the journalism, on the law, and as you said, the judge dismissed the suit, called it a political document. But I think for us, it's about doing the work every day. We know that we have an institution, a long history, a publisher, a set of editors who are really behind the reporters, and I think that helps you avoid any sense of a chilling effect.
So do you think the Times will ever settle that case the way CBS, ABC, now YouTube has just settled a case for $24 million based on their taking Trump off the rolls after January 6th? The law firms, even the universities, everyone is caving. Is the Times going to cave?
Never. The Times is never going to settle. He's wrong on the facts and the law, and we're going to fight it.
And, there's, of course, a landmark case, New York Times against Sullivan. Clarence Thomas has indicated he doesn't think it's good law. Do you think it is good law? Does the First Amendment protect the Times from a libel suit?
Absolutely.
A public official?
Absolutely good law, Jim. And you just see it time and again for decades now. The fact that this country is so better off, so much stronger. Our people are so much stronger because of press freedoms in America, because the courts time and again have understood that having a free and fair press is part of the strength of this country. It's part of what makes our democracy distinct. And I think the Times, but so many news organizations, including some of the ones you mentioned that are under pressure and are making their own decisions, are part of that history. And the reality, Jim, is that we wouldn't have the answers to big, important storylines about the Trump administration, the Biden administration, the Obama administration, the Bush administration, and Iraq and Afghanistan, where I was as a reporter, or about foreign affairs and what we cover, if not for those press freedoms and the First Amendment protection. It's what makes us different than countries like Hungary, where you've seen just press freedoms wiped away and just kind of a weakened society as a result.
Okay, so let's shift to Gaza. You have no reporters in Gaza. Foreign reporters aren't allowed there. So when you report that Palestinians in Gaza are being killed when they're going to seek food or aid, how do you know who's killing them?
So we do have journalists on the ground, Jim. We have both reporters and photographers who are there, who are doing incredible work for us. In Gaza, no, in Gaza. What we've been fighting for, and I think other news organizations as well, under the real effort of press freedom, is to get more reporters into Gaza independently of the IDF, to be able to see what's happening, to interview people, to bear witness. As someone who covered war zones before, having your feet on the ground really does make the difference, and it's something that we've been pressing in the Israeli Supreme Court and other venues to get independent journalists in.
Do you expect your approach to shift in light of the peace plan advanced by Trump that Hamas better release the hostages or he's going to give Israel the green light, which Israel probably doesn't need anyway, to really crack down on Gaza?
We're discussing all the time how we cover the story. Do we have the right beats? Are we doing certain sort of long-form accountability stories or investigations? So I think as the facts of the story change, as the story evolves, we'll kind of adjust accordingly. But Jim, I think we've covered this story so thoroughly and so powerfully. We do hear, as you said, criticism from a lot of sides. I do think there's an important point to make here, Jim, though, that the volume of the criticism coming from all sides doesn't mean that we're getting it wrong. It means that there's intensity and there's interest among a lot of people, a lot of partisans, and they do look to the Times, Jim, to referee the conflict at times.
Maybe you're getting it right.
Maybe you're getting it right.
And let's just shift to the local news. I think everyone expects Mamdani to be the next mayor. Everyone may be wrong. Perhaps it's a boost to his adversaries that Adams withdrew from the race. Do you think you've focused enough on Mamdani's lack of experience, lack of possible ability to run the city? Who's going to run the city for him? I mean, have you called him up and said, hey, Mamdani, what do you know about sanitation? LaGuardia used to say there's no Republican or Democratic way of cleaning the streets. How do you propose to clean the streets, Mamdani, and get rid of the bicycle lanes and the congestion and all the urban blight we have so we become a great city again?
Absolutely.
I mean, you're asking him those tough questions.
Oh, we're asking those tough questions. He came into the Times, the other day, and we were sort of just coming at him with questions about all of those issues, Jim. We're holding Mamdani to the same standard that we hold basically front runners to, for lack of a better word. I covered Hillary Clinton in 2008, and we held her to that standard, and certainly Trump and Clinton in 2016. And the standard is we're going to ask every question that's important to the people who you are looking to represent. This is a great public service, both by the Times to, I think, its readers, but also for journalists and politicians to engage in, to bring that information to light. I think you're raising all the questions that we've raised. There are questions around experience, around he has the ideas, but how would the ideas work in practice?
Well, what kind of mayor do you expect Mamdani to be? Do you think he'll be more like de Blasio and Lindsay, sort of political type mayors who think they were elected president? Or do you think he'll be a city manager like Bloomberg and Koch maybe?
Yeah, it's really hard to say, Jim, and I don't, again, bring my own opinions to bear on this. I think one thing that we've all been struck by is that he has an ability to communicate with people, with his own base, with a cross-section of New Yorkers, in ways that, frankly remind me quite a bit of Donald Trump, an ability to kind of speak a language and represent, a point of view that you might not necessarily, expect him to. How those abilities would translate if he were to be elected mayor, we'll see. I think with President Trump, he talks a great deal. He's on camera a great deal. He's posting a great deal. But I think the important thing for the role of journalists is to really dig into the policies and the ideas. Is he making the difference for the people who voted for him, the people who didn't vote for him? I think we take the same approach with Mamdani if he got into office. He has pledged and promised and talked about a large number of ideas. He has a gift for communicating them, but what will he actually be able to get past? So I think that's where the role of the Times is in terms of digging in.
Good. Well, I have a question for you because we've come to the end. And my question for you, Patrick Healy, is The article of faith in the New York Times always used to be all the news that's fit to print. Is that still the article of faith, or is it something else?
It's still the article of faith, Jim. I will say the print newspaper is kind of one of maybe several vehicles we have. People love the morning, the newsletter. It goes out to 15 million plus readers. They love the daily. They love the evening on politics. Our videos have been growing in number kind of more and more, and people are really enjoying that form. My colleagues Ezra Klein and Ross Douthed and others on the opinion side have moved sort of further and further into YouTube and sort of bringing their shows. So there's a lot of different ways to experience the Times other than the front page and the print section that I grew up with as a kid when my parents were subscribing up in Boston. But that's what you do, Jim, right? You meet the audience where it is.
So thank you so much for coming by. We could go much further, but I think we've covered a lot. And thank you for coming by. Tune in next week for more conversations. I'm Jim Zirin. Remember to download our CUNY TV app, and you can see all the shows. Meanwhile, take care and all the best.